Good morning and welcome everyone to this Volkswagen Group Apprenticeship Program webinar, where we will be discussing about what apprenticeship options we have, how can you apply, and today we are joined by our team Inspire Learning. I'll let the team introduce themselves. We're also joined by our lovely apprentice, Zoe, who will be sharing her experience and answering some of your questions at the end. I'll hand over to Sam to give us an introduction and the rest of the team to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Zeb. Thank you for welcoming everybody as well. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I can see you've all found the chat box, and I can see we've got a few people from across the UK and further afield joining us today, so that's great. As Zeb mentioned, we've got Zoe. Give us a wave, Zoe. She's one of our fabulous apprentices with the Volkswagen Group Apprenticeship Program, and we've also got my colleague Emma. Give us a wave, Emma. Wonderful. And we're here and we're going to talk you through the Volkswagen Group Apprenticeship Program. Right, moving on. So we do have a bit of an agenda, and we're going to cover all these points on the screen here this morning. So types of apprenticeships that we offer at Volkswagen Group, what the apprenticeship will do for yourself, how to apply and what's the recruitment process, and that will be presented by Emma. What support you will get on your apprenticeship, what comes after the apprenticeship, any success stories that we've got to share with you on the program as well, how to get in contact, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So we will go straight in. Volkswagen Group, as you can probably imagine, has a wide number of brands within it. So as you found the chat box, or so many of you found the chat box, it is on the right-hand side to anybody who hasn't looked yet. If you can just type into the chat box what brands you think were covered within Volkswagen Group. Some of that nice bit of audience participation for 9 a.m. Oh, George, yep, that's very keen. Audi, correct. Absolutely. Anybody else got any ideas who might be in the Volkswagen Group?
Yeah, we've got some Googling going on in the background.
Bugatti, I believe is part of the apprenticeship program. Well, not part of Volkswagen Group, sorry. Skoda, Volkswagen, Audi. Mercedes isn't, Luke, I'm afraid, sorry to say. Porsche's within Volkswagen Group. Skoda, yep. Lamborghini, Charlie, correct. BMW isn't, neither is Ford, so I'm afraid. And Seat, brilliant. Lovely. Quite a few brands, as you can expect. Now, on the Volkswagen Group apprenticeship program, we do represent actually a number of those. So they're just on screen for you now. So on the top row, from left to right, as I see the screen, we've got Audi, Bentley, Seat and Cupra, Skoda, Volkswagen passenger cars, TPS, which is trade parts specialist. That's a very specific role that we'll come on to later on. Volkswagen Paint and Body, which is the approved paint and body network for Volkswagen Group, and Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. So we offer apprenticeships for our what we call a franchised retail network. So these are retailers up and down the UK that will have after-sales apprenticeships within them. And across the majority of these brands, or all of these brands, sorry, we offer the following specialisms. So for Audi, Seat, Cupra, Skoda, Volkswagen passenger cars, Volkswagen commercial vehicles, and also missing from the previous slide is Bentley. We offer apprenticeships for service technicians. Now, a service technician, many people will probably think of that as being a mechanic. However, I suppose the complexity of the role in these sort of more modern times requires a much more technical skill set. So we therefore kind of refer to it as being a service technician. As you can probably imagine, this role involves the servicing and maintenance of vehicles, as well as diagnosing and remedying faults. I'm sure, Zoe, you're nodding along. That's about right, yeah?
Yeah, there is a little bit of diagnosing in the course, and you do learn a lot about how to identify issues within the cars themselves. And this is just as a service technician before you even go on to the Diag and Master Tech. So there is a lot to learn, but it is fascinating stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for putting in there. We do have a video next. However, sadly, we're having a few technical issues this morning, so it isn't going to play. We will direct you in the direction, I suppose, of where these videos are hosted, so you can have a look at these on your own time. We do have a lot of social media presence, so we'll be recommending that you do like, follow, subscribe, or whatever you may wish to do. I think we've just popped that into the chat for you now for our TikTok account, for example. So yeah, well worth having a look. Lots of little bite-sized information for you to take away there. The other specialisms that we offer for Audi, Seat Cooper, Skoda, passenger cars and commercial vehicles is the Parts Advisor Apprenticeship. In many ways, that's kind of the beating heart of the retailer. Parts advisors are generally organised and methodical. And the crux of the role really is to ensure that the technicians have the parts that they require to do the work that they're doing on time. Driving efficiency for retailers is really, really key for our customers. Obviously, if we say that your car will be serviced or repaired by a certain time and date, we need to make sure that we're meeting that expectation that we've set. So parts advisors are a really, really critical role within that. Moving on, so as before, for the brands I've mentioned previously, we also have a service advisor apprenticeship. Now, service advisor, you can effectively think of a service advisor as the face of the business. Every time that a customer comes in with their vehicle, whether it be for a service or for any sort of remedial work that may need doing or diagnostic work, the service advisor will liaise with the customer. So the customer might bring their vehicle in, service advisor will speak with the customer, understand perhaps what that customer says is going on with their vehicle, and feed that back to the technicians. So the technician has a bit of an idea where to start or what the fault or wherever it might be with the vehicle. And then the service advisor will then kind of explain what that is to the customer, and a general kind of go between and demystifying and or making less technical the technical, if that makes sense, for the customer to be able to understand. As I mentioned earlier, when we reviewed the slides, we also have a TPS apprenticeship for parts sales executive. So TPS is Volkswagen's trade parts specialist provision. It's primarily a sales role. So you will have businesses up and down the country who require genuine Volkswagen parts, and it is your role to sort of source them and supply them. Again, a bit like a parts advisor, it's all about timeliness and making sure that those parts get to the sites in time for the work to be done. So that's quite a busy role. It's quite dynamic, on the phone a lot, building relationships with customers. It's great for people who are people, if that makes sense. And I do make an apology for the next slide, because as we do go down, these arrows or these ticks do slightly go out of arrangement. But hopefully you can kind of figure out. So for our paint and body apprenticeships, we do a paint technician, a panel technician, and an MET technician. MET standing for mechanical, electrical, and trim. A paint technician, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So a paint technician will repair any damaged paintwork to a vehicle or do full body resprays, and repair the vehicle to sort of, you know, when it was produced in the factory, that sort of condition. Panel technicians similarly are pulling out dents, pulling out creases in the bodywork if it's been in a collision, or replacing body panels entirely if they're damaged beyond repair. An MET technician is fairly similar to an extent to a service technician. There's a lot of diagnostic work involved. You might be going through wiring looms to try and identify perhaps faults in wiring, and kind of getting in behind the dashboard and all that sort of good stuff. So it's quite a good role. Brill, I feel like I've spoke for ages now, but that it's only been 10 minutes. Moving on then. What will this apprenticeship do for you? So I think the Volkswagen Group apprenticeship is a very prestigious apprenticeship program. You will get full-time employment as an apprentice for the duration of your apprenticeship. You'll be representing one of our fantastic brands at one of our great employer partners from the franchise dealer network or retailer network. You'll receive world-class training from our expert trainers. We have a fantastic team of trainers at our training facility. They're all experienced. They've all got experience in the trade. Many of them were apprentices at one point in time, so they will understand, perhaps as an apprentice, some of the struggles that you've been through, some of the challenges that you faced in adjusting to life outside of school and in the workplace. And many of them will have worked on the brand previously as well. You will receive, as part of your apprenticeship, a nationally recognised qualification, as well as Volkswagen Group's specific brand certification. And then I think, as most people view apprenticeships, it's a great foot in the door to a happy and long career in the automotive industry. The automotive industry can be challenging at times, but it's a great place to work. And I think you can see by Zoe's face, she loves every single day, which is great. Apprenticeships, as I said, they are a full-time role. The minimum wage for an apprentice currently is £6.40 an hour. That will be changing going up in April to £7.55. And what you generally tend to find is that each April it does increase by somewhere between sort of 20 to 60, 70 pence historically. Again, as it's a full-time position, you will get your annual leave and bank holidays occasionally. I'm sure Zoe maybe works the odd bank holiday for the overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple.
A couple. And it's generally minimum 30 hours a week. You will get a support with your mentor. So I'm sure we'll ask Zoe about her mentor in a little bit, I think, at the Q&A, actually. But Zoe, for example, has a mentor in the workplace. So that's an employee that she shadows, that shows them the role, that shows them the sorts of roles, sorts of jobs to do. And Zoe will probably start off with a sort of shadowing kind of type. And then as time goes on and she gets more familiar with the sort of jobs that are coming in, starting to take more responsibility for doing those herself. As well as that, you'll also have an assessor coach who will come out to see you in the workplace as well, to make sure that you're on track, to make sure that you're happy in everything that's going on, and to kind of just keep that progress as you go through your apprenticeship very much sort of timely for you. And then we also do what's called block release training week. So we'll talk about that a little bit further on. So unlike perhaps maybe more traditional apprenticeship where you'd go to a local college for maybe day release, perhaps, we do what's called block training. So that will be coming away for generally a week at a time to either the National Learning Centre in Milton Keynes for our service technician, service technician, MET technician, parts and service advisor apprentices, or the Inspire Learning Academy in Doncaster for our paint and panel apprentices. As I said, it is a week at a time, so when you do come away, you will be put up in a hotel. That is paid for by your employer. We've got a number of partner hotels that we utilise, and obviously we do make sure that they are of a good standard. As you can see some pictures there, we do have some facilities within the hotels for our apprentices. A week is a long time to be away, so we don't want anybody getting bored. And we do put on activities in the afternoon or in the evenings from the hotel as well, which is all to the good. We have in the past year returned to doing what we call outward bounds as well. Your attendance to this will depend on the program that you are on. So certainly if you're a service technician, a paint panel technician, MET technician, and a TPS trade parts specialist apprentice, you will do outward bounds as part of your program. Outward Bounds is designed to build your resilience. It's designed to enhance your teamwork, your collaboration, personal skills, and kind of bring you out of your shell and kind of get used to being in challenging environments and how to grow in these sort of stressful environments that we sometimes find ourselves in. It's a great bit of the program. Our apprentices love it. They come back beaming smiles. It's wonderful. And moving on. So we've had a few questions on things like entry requirements and the recruitment process. So I'm just going to cover off entry requirements very briefly. So entry requirements, you do have to be over 16 years of age and have the right to work in the UK. For all of our apprenticeships, you require GCSE grades 9 to 4 or in old money, A to C in English and maths. And you'd also require the same in science for service technician and MET apprenticeships. We'd require GCSE in a further subject for service advisor and parts advisor roles, and 9 to 3 or A to D in science for the paint and panel technician roles as well. So I'm now going to hand over to Emma, and she is going to cover the recruitment process. I know there's been a few recruitment related questions, so I'm sure you're all eager to hear what Emma has to say.
I've been busy on the chat, so hopefully I've been able to answer some of them so far. So obviously we'll share the link with you all so that you can have a look at the available opportunities and get applying on our website. When you complete that application, though, what happens, right? So it comes to one of my team, and effectively we look at who's applied and what you've applied for. We look at the entry grade criteria for that role and make sure that you are not overqualified for that role. So we do get some people apply who maybe they've done a little bit of training in this arena previously. So we make sure you're not overqualified for the role. We look at, do you meet the entry grade criteria? And we also look at if you do have any additional support needs, what those support needs are, and any reasonable adjustments that we can make in the workplace to support you. That may involve, if you do have any HCP, we may reach out to you and discuss what your needs are, because albeit any HCP doesn't necessarily include everything written down that you may need. So we do have those conversations with you as well. Once the application deadline has closed, we then arrange telephone interviews with everybody who meets criteria. We hold a short telephone interview with you of around 10-15 minutes. And we've got sort of a list of questions that we may ask and go through with you. We want to make sure it's the right scheme for you. Ultimately, that you're fully aware of what the role entails, that you're actually passionate about the automotive industry or the brand that you've applied for. And obviously, we want to make sure that you're going to fit in with that team that you've applied for the role with. What we then do is we write up those telephone interview notes and we share them with the site. They won't know who you are. It's completely anonymised, so they're able to make a decision based purely on the answers that have been provided and the qualifications of the individual that's there. Those recruitment managers then look at that and shortlist. So they tell us actually of the 10 people maybe that we've shared with them, how many of them that they're available to interview, and they let us know that. So we would then reach out to you and arrange interviews with those individuals. Some sites do like to also do work trials. And what that basically is getting you in that workshop to make sure that when you walk in, you don't think, oh my word, what is this? I'm completely out of my comfort zone. I don't like it. There's too much going on, or whatever it may be. So it's to make sure that you're comfortable and also that you're kind of safe in that space. Once the interviews and work trials are complete, we then get feedback from the site, which can take a couple of days sometimes. So we get feedback from the site. They let us know what the outcome is of those interview sessions and kind of who they would like to offer the role to. We do recruit all year round. So that's something that's really important to know, is that you can apply at any time of the year, and we do get roles coming in at any given time of the year. So it's not, that you've checked today and there's nothing available in your area at the moment. that means there won't be. That's not the case. Actually, next week there could be something around the corner from you. So definitely keep checking back. You can also register your interest on our website. So you just basically putting your name down for anything in that area. That would be kind of in the specialism that you would like. So if you're after specifically service technician or parts, you're able to apply specifically for kind of any role in that area. What that does mean is that if a role comes up at Audi or a role comes up at SEAT, we could contact you about any of those opportunities, not just for the brand specifically that you wish to work for. So yeah, you're able to register your interest as well. I can see there's lots of questions in the chat. So if you failed science, does that matter? And you've got your English and maths. We do deal with individuals on a case-by-case basis. There are some grades and qualifications that might be what we would class as the equivalent of a science. So maybe you've done a level 2 in engineering, or you've done, a level 2 in something else. We would look at your whole CV, not just those specific individual gradings. What do we consider overqualified? So this, depending on which apprenticeship you apply for, if you've done that qualification, so even if it was at college and not as an apprenticeship, we would not be able to claim any funding from the government for that course, because ultimately we can't demonstrate that there's significant new learning for you because you've got the qualification. Even though you haven't got the work experience that goes alongside it, if you've got the qualification, that would be somebody who would be deemed to be overqualified for that specific apprenticeship. We do take into consideration if people have been working in an area for a significant period of time, but usually people that apply to us for an apprenticeship generally aren't in work at that point in time. Harry, no, you don't need any experience. Sorry, I'm just literally answering the questions in the chat as we go because I don't want us to miss them because they are in the chat rather than... Henry, are there any opportunities to work abroad? Not specifically for this apprenticeship. And yes, Benjamin, we will share the links to our website about kind of where our opportunity... There we go. Whoever did that, thank you. So yeah, you can have a look at our opportunities that are available and the types of roles that we have on offer. If anybody does come to us and they do have additional learning needs, so whether they've got any HCP or anything like that, we deal with individuals on a case-by-case basis. So if somebody does come and they've got any HCP, we would review those individuals on that application. Can someone who is 19 and just finished A-levels apply? Yes, you absolutely can. Do we want to talk about career progression now?
We've got a slide on that in a little bit, actually. So, Eshan, I'm going to cover your point in just a moment.
Lovely.
Perfect.
And that's me done, I think. I'm handing back to you, Sam.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma. That was really, really insightful. I hope everybody got a lot from that. I can see a few thanks in the chat from people, so I think you've done a great job there. Brilliant. So, moving on. What support you will get. Emma mentioned around education, healthcare plans when she's going through the recruitment side. So these are people who perhaps have a particular learning need or particular learning difference. We do a lot while we're on program with individuals to support them with those learning differences. I think it's important to recognise that within the sort of our technician sort of cohort of learners, so to speak, there is a fair volume of people who do learn in different ways. So we put a lot of focus and emphasis in that, and there's lots of different areas of support that you can get across the program. So sort of internally, we have a safeguarding and a welfare lead. They're available for you to speak with if you've got any problems or issues or concerns. Even if you're not sure if it's a proper concern or not, they're there for you to go to and speak with. We also have a learner support coordinator who will work with you quite frequently if you have a particular learning need or particular learning difference. And their role will be to kind of come up with solutions, to come up with suggestions and coping techniques or mechanisms to kind of enable you to succeed to the best of your ability. Obviously, the training centre staff at the NLC or at Doncaster are also there to support you. They're very, very approachable. They're very, very friendly. As I said, many of them have been apprentices themselves in the past. So they will be more than welcome to handle any sort of questions, queries, uncertainties you may have. during your time as an apprentice. And of course, within your employer as well, there'll be various people who are there to assist you, whether it be HR teams, whether it be your mentor itself, or potentially even your manager. We do offer adaptations to our delivery as well, in terms of reasonable adjustments to make sure that we are kind of meeting people's individualised needs. And we do make sure we have reasonable adjustments when we have certain assessments throughout people's programs too. In terms of workplace support and concerns, we will also, happy to liaise with your employer if you do have some challenges going on, whether that be in your personal or professional life. Safeguarding, again, remains very, very important for us too. So your well-being is important. And as a training provider, it is critical that we make sure that we're supporting that. And then sort of general learner welfare as well. We do kind of look out for that, and we do embed things like behaviours into the programme as we go through as well. So we did have a question earlier on around what comes after the apprenticeship. So I think it is really important to say, and to set everybody's expectation correctly, there is never a guarantee of employment after an apprenticeship. If you're doing a service technician apprenticeship, for example, that could be a 3-year program, and no one has a crystal ball about what the future looks like. So you could have some sort of massive economic downturn, and things could not be feasible to keep people on. However, that being said, an apprenticeship is a significant investment from your employer. They are looking to future-proof their business when they take on an apprentice. They're thinking about 3 years' time, having a newly qualified technician who already has 3 years' experience in the business. The whole view of raising an apprenticeship is to bring somebody through the other end of it and keep them on. So our retention is really, really high across the network. And I think that's a really great place to be in. The future broadly is in your hands, of course. So if people don't work hard throughout their apprenticeship, are always having to be chased to get their work done on time, and aren't engaging with the program, then obviously that could lead to some challenges in being retained after your apprenticeship. But if you work hard, show the right attitude, show the right skills, it becomes an absolute no-brainer for the network to keep you on. And of course, people can move around as well afterwards. After your apprenticeship, there are learner journeys that you can go on as a delegate, we call it, but I think post-apprentice when I say the word delegate, after your apprenticeship, to either become perhaps a more sophisticated technician or even routes into management. So with that in mind, and I can see that the chat has been going wild, I want you all to kind of maybe just enter a few different job roles that you think you could do once you complete your apprenticeship. So feel free to go mad in the chat for us. Service technician, yep, absolutely. That is the next step, 100%. If you do a service technician apprenticeship, becoming a service technician, brilliant. Master technician, absolutely. So Harley, you seem quite familiar with the setup of workshops. Yes, master technician is, and for anybody who doesn't know, a master technician is somebody who has gone through the full training and has extensive knowledge of the vehicles and repair and service techniques. Sales advisor, yep, some people do move into sales. Some people do become parts advisors. Tutor, some people have gone into training, as I mentioned earlier, from being an apprentice. So that's brilliant. Great, some good ideas. So here is a bit of a word cloud on the general roles that are available. So we've seen service technician, master technician mentioned before. I think there's a sales manager in there, so you can go into sales once you progress. Service advisor jobs, workshop controller as well, branch manager or dealership manager, head of business. Lots of different roles that you can progress to, and you can go as far as your talent, ambition, as enthusiasm takes you. So lots of opportunities. Many people in the network started as an apprentice. In fact, probably the majority. For most people, a way into the automotive industry is through an apprenticeship as well. So you'll have even heads of businesses, even workshop controllers, service or after sales managers who were technician apprentices or customer service advisor apprentices in the past. as I said, this is a great program that does give great opportunities, and we've had a number of success stories over the years. So fairly recently, we've got a lady called Natalie Dickinson, and she completed a service technician apprenticeship in 2022. I think she was one of our first ever distinction apprentices as well, which was a really, really great achievement. But to top it off, she was one of the finalists for the IMI Awards in 2023. And then last year we had Ashley Hersley, who made it to the World Skills Finals last year. So he was competing against apprentices globally. And he did really, really well. So he competed against many, many other people. So he did really, really well. And the last sort of bit. So we do have some social media presence, as I mentioned earlier. And I really, really recommend scanning that QR code for anyone who's able to. That'll take you to obviously our websites and social media pages as well. On our social media pages, we've got lots of sort of bite-sized information, day in the life videos, for example, that really gives you a flavour of what it's like to be an apprentice, what the roles entail. Obviously, we've covered quite a lot today, so I don't expect that everybody to remember it. So again, having a look on our social media profiles or having a look on our websites will kind of just reappraise you with that information. Thank you for dropping those links in the tab in the chat, Zeb. Obviously, we've got our phone number there and our email address if you do have any sort of follow-up questions. So I'm just going to leave this slide up for a second for anybody who wants to jot that down. Okay, perfect. I think it is a good opportunity now to sort of move on to our question and answer session. So we are going to kick off the question and answer session with a question that we've actually got for Zoe, who's, again, as I mentioned before, is one of our current apprentices. So Zeb, do you want to fire off?
So the question that we are always asked by parents, guardians, and apprentices likewise is, what happens if I have a learning difficulty? Do I get extra support as I do get now at school? So Zoe, do you want to answer that question?
Yep. Okay, so with a learning difficulty, you get people that help you through stuff. So you have the safeguarding members. I personally have a safeguarding member at college. She will check up on me weekly. They will also ask if I need anything extra, anything to help me accommodate at work. So for my autism, sometimes loud noises set me off, and there's little earphones and earplugs that they can specifically get for you. In terms of help at college, every tutor is very, very heavily focused on attention to do with the students. So for me, I'm quite fidgety during class and I can't concentrate unless I'm doing something. As soon as I walked into that classroom and they knew about me, I got...
Has the sound gone?
Yeah, I think her sound's gone, but I think we'll power on because that was a really good answer. It's a shame it's kind of got cut off. Again, feel free to type some questions into the chat. Theo, you've asked a good question. I think on sort of tips on how the best way to apply, and Nathan, tips on a good application. I think broadly, it's about your enthusiasm. That's the one thing that can't be trained. That's one thing that certainly when I used to recruit apprentices myself, that's what I'd look for in things like personal statements, 100%. Again, at telephone interview stage, we'll be expecting you to have done a little bit of research about the brand. So making sure you've done some research can be really good. We've got Zoe back. Brilliant. You were stopped mid-flow. You were doing so well. It looks like she might have frozen again. So in terms of application tips, I think enthusiasm, do your research on the brand. Those are the two things that generally are winners for me. That demonstrates a standout candidate, someone who's taken their own time as well to look up like the brand history is always good. Emma, any thoughts on that you'd like to add?
I'd recommend that you really think about the role and why it is that you want it, and why actually should you be giving it over others, because ultimately what are you able to bring that others may not. So there's lots of concerns on if they've not got professional experience in the chat, and if people don't have technical experience. You absolutely don't need technical experience. It's helpful if you do. It doesn't really, you don't need it, and it's absolutely fine if you don't have it, if it's not something that you've ever been involved with. That's absolutely fine. I think it's just really important that you kind of express your passion for the industry and the role that you want to do, and understand a little bit about the role as well. We've obviously shared with you kind of the types of things that you'll do for each of those roles. Remember that, kind of take that away when you're talking about kind of why it is that you'd like the role. Actually, I really love customer interaction, or I really, quite technically minded, and I love to take stuff apart and put it back together, or whatever the things are that drive you. Just that passion really does come across when you're talking in telephone interviews, albeit I appreciate fully that telephone interviews are very daunting. Maybe do a bit of practice with some friends, kind of get them to ask you questions that you think might come up. If you're not sure what questions might come up, please do have a Google. There's lots and lots of help online about kind of the questions that might be asked in a telephone interview.
Well, thanks, Emma. I've got a couple of other questions as well on, I think there's a good one here from George, who asks, would having a Saturday job affect the chance of getting an apprenticeship? Actually, sometimes having some prior work experience can be an advantage. Some employers do tend to look for someone who's maybe got that behind them. What I would say would be to just be mindful, though, in terms of Saturday jobs, of both the amount of hours that you'd be working. As an apprentice, you could be working between 30 to 40 hours a week already. You'll be doing off-the-job work as well. There's lots of e-learning to do. Obviously, there's your coursework that you'll be expected to do as well. So you don't want to be overloading yourself. And also the other thing to think about, and I think as Zoe intimated earlier, is things like overtime. Obviously, you might want to make yourself available for overtime if you're eligible for it in your workplace. I mean, Zoe, how would you, if you worked Saturdays on top of your normal job, how many hours do you think you'd be working?
So I currently do work most Saturdays. You're looking, if you're doing a half day, you're looking at about 40 to 45 hours a month. And to answer Nathan's question in the chat, I have no experience in the industry, but it was just my attitude alone during the interview that got me through, because I showed them that I was so passionate and I really wanted the job and I wanted to do things. I told them why I wanted the job as well. So that hopefully answers Nathan's question about the experience. It does help if you know a little bit, but it's all about the personality. You've got to show you want it.
Perfect. Zoe, that's a great answer. And it's something that I often say as well, in terms of you can't train attitude. You can train anyone to be a tech. And I think the bottom line is if you're a nightmare to work with, you won't last long in any role, let alone an apprenticeship. So those sort of personal attributes, I think, is something that's, when I speak with hiring managers, when I speak with service and after sales managers, that's broadly what most of them look like. Experience can be great, and if you've got that combined with the right personality, you're onto a winner. But yeah, you can't train a good attitude. It's very, very hard. I saw another question about a sales apprenticeship. No, we don't presently do a sales apprenticeship in and of its own. The TPS Trade Parts Specialist Apprenticeship is a sales apprenticeship to a point. So that might be something that you could be quite interested in. And of course, once you do a TPS apprenticeship, that's not to say that you couldn't transition across to vehicle sales later in your career. Question from Harley. There never seems to be anyone hiring near me. Is there a particular time of year when more positions are available? Short answer, Harley, is yes. Now, as Emma mentioned earlier on, we do recruit all year round to support our network. That being said, we do tend to find there are peaks and troughs. So now we're in February, we are starting to get a little bit busier. We are starting to get more and more vacancies through from the network. Most of the network have finished their budgeting for the year and making their plans for apprentice recruitment for the year. So you will see over the next few months, probably between now and June, July, the majority of our vacancies will be registered on our website. Again, on our website, you can either register your interest for a sort of vacancy as and when it comes up, or you can also register for job alerts as well and be notified of the latest positions as they come up. Emma, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you've answered that. Brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant. Lovely. Anyone see any other questions?
I'm not sure if Nathan's follow-up question of any experience in college was aimed directly at you, Zoe, in case you had experience in college, or if it was in general. Oh, you're on mute.
That makes sense. No, I did animation and computer game design and public services. The only technical knowledge I have is learning stuff for myself, working with friends on their cars. It was just the attitude that got me in. I was just so keen for the job. I'm quite an older apprentice. I'm nearly 30. And it came to a point where I want a career that I can be proud of and proper delve into. So I applied for this place and they gave me a chance. And for that one chance, I give it my all.
Thanks, Zoe. That's brilliant.
Perfect. Ursin, what advice would you have for a 19-year-old who is currently at home and searching for an apprenticeship? I like that question. I think tenacity. I think you have to keep going at it. There are obviously a number of apprenticeships, not just within ourselves, but they are jobs at the end of the day, and it is a competitive industry to get into. So I think be tenacious, keep applying, and I think about some of those hints and tips that we gave you around applications previously, things like positive attitudes, all that kind of good stuff that Emma mentioned as well, would be really, really helpful.
Another question, Sam, we have received is, which we have briefly covered, but people have asked where I will be trained and how often will I be required to go?
Perfect. I'm just going to go back a few slides as well so we can talk through that. But effectively, if you are a service technician apprentice, a parts advisor apprentice, or a customer service advisor apprentice, you'll be trained at the National Learning Centre in Milton Keynes. So that is Volkswagen Group's purpose-built training facility. I can't remember exactly how much it cost to build, but it's a heck of an investment from Volkswagen Group. As I said, you'll go there for a week at a time, and roughly that'll be every 2 to 3 months, just depending on the training calendar for your attendance. And that also goes for the Inspire Learning Academy in Doncaster for paint and panel apprentices too. Lovely. We have a question here on eligibility in terms of residency, Emma.
So in terms of eligibility for residency, I would refer you to the government website that will explain to you what entitles you to the right to work in the UK. So that will give you the specific amount of time that you've got to be here. I think there was an earlier question as well around kind of what makes an individual eligible. So it really just depends on whereabouts in the world you are and kind of what our position would be with that specific country.
Eshan, great question. Which apprenticeship role has the best career progression and pay rate in the future? I mean, realistically, in terms of career progression, it depends very much on what you want to do, where your skill sets lie and what role would suit you best. Some people just love working on cars. Some people might just want to be a diagnostic technician. They don't want to progress any further, and that's fine by them. They don't want to become a master technician, and they're very happy in that particular lane. Some people have aspirations for management and will want to become a service or after sales manager. I think the money is very kind of secondary to that. Obviously, yes, it pays the bills at the end of the day, but yeah, absolutely. Zoe, what are your career aspirations? Do you mind sharing that?
No. I'd like to become a EV specialist and maybe go into the safeguarding sort of corner myself and help people that do struggle with illnesses more into the industry and show them it's not as scary as it looks. There's a lot more help.
Thanks, Zoe. That's a great answer. We've had a couple of different questions. So, Jay, how many people are we taking on for the positions? We generally recruit in the region of 450-ish apprentices per year across the network. And we've had a question about what if people aren't able to attend the block training due to funds. Your employer pays for your hotel when you come away, and they generally reimburse you for your travel as well. Can a level 2 mechanical engineering student apply? Emma?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No issue there at all. That's not a qualification that would make you ineligible.
Is the qualification at the end of the apprenticeship recognised by Volkswagen Group in other countries? That's a good question. So Volkswagen Group, they do have a learner journey that you go on, and you do get your certification through that, in addition to your level 3 light vehicle maintenance and repair, for example, if you are a technician.
Yeah, so there's two elements to it. And I think that the actual formal qualification is nationally recognised as being at the appropriate standard for as if you'd gone to college and studied that level 3, albeit you've done it as part of an apprenticeship, so you've got that hands-on work experience too. So as long as they recognise that specific qualification abroad, absolutely. But we used to call it a time-served apprenticeship, which is effectively the Volkswagen Group's own version of their qualification and their upskill and what kind of level you would achieve at the end of your apprenticeship within Volkswagen Group. That part may not be, only because different companies use different methods to accredit their people with their own, diagnostic equipment, tools and kit. So just to be clear that it's two separate things. The qualification at the end would be nationally recognised. Yes.
Perfect.
Very long answer to a short question, sorry.
Have we answered this question? What advice would you give an apprentice who is experiencing challenges but is anxious to reach out for support? I think do it. I think reach out. If you have a safeguarding provision within an apprenticeship program, absolutely reach out by all means. We would love to be there to help and support anything that's going on in the workplace.
Thanks, Sam. Eshan, you've asked about certain brands. So yes, absolutely. So if you work within a certain brand, you are accredited in their way of working. So that might be their diagnostic testing. It might be actually working on certain pieces of equipment that only those types of cars have. Ultimately, engines anymore are not engines. There are lots of computers that go within that. So yes, absolutely, you would be specialising in that certain brand.
Abdul, can I be in college and still apply? Yeah, absolutely. I think certainly when it comes to sort of 16-year-olds who are leaving their GCSEs, people feel that there's a bit of a binary option between going down the college route and going down the apprentice route. My view would be that if you wanted to go to college but also apply for apprenticeships, do it 100%. And there's no harm in applying for a college place as a sort of backup, and then continuing to apply for apprenticeships so you can get one when it's available.
So just reading some of the other questions. So what are possible options if you don't meet the minimum required grades? So if you don't meet the minimum required grades, we would be kind of looking at your application as a whole. Do you have any HCP? Is there a learning difficulty that might mean that you've, that's the reason that you've not been able to achieve that for an English and Maths, for example. If you don't have a science grade and or any other equivalent, we would encourage you obviously to look into going back to college, possibly to do a level 2 in something to give you that those grades. And again, with the English and the Maths, this is a level up usually. So if I'm talking about service technician, that's a level 3 apprenticeship. That is the equivalent of A levels, and you wouldn't go to a sixth form and expect to be able to get in if you'd not done particularly well in your GCSEs. Only because there is an academic element to this apprenticeship. You have got to be able to describe what you've done, to be able to write it down, to be able to articulate with an assessor at the end who's going to ask you questions, technical questions about why you've done what you've done. You've got to be able to answer those questions. So there is a level of academic capability required, which is why we do set the entry grade criteria as we do.
Perfect. Thank you, Emma. We've now got 10 minutes left of the webinar. I'm conscious that the questions are kind of drying up.
Oh, no, there's still lots of questions.
Oh, they're still coming in?
Yeah, there's more. Right. Because there is a Q&A tab now too that I didn't realise was at the top. I've been answering them in the chat, not in Q&A. So apologies. So will it cost you anything to become an apprentice? No. Some places do offer tools and equipment to you as well. All PPE is provided. And as Sam mentioned, when you do come away for your training, your travel and accommodation is paid for. You are also fed whilst you are away. So you don't have to even worry about, paying for food bills of an evening or anything like that. If you want snacks, you do need to bring your own. Just there are more, so apologies. What's the benefit for achieving a distinction in your apprenticeship? Ultimately, when you achieve a distinction, that is a nationally recognised achievement. So both, obviously, it's something to celebrate for your own kind of achievement, but actually it is recognised elsewhere. So when you are able to say that you've achieved a distinction in that apprenticeship, that's no mean feat. It's very difficult to get at the endpoint assessment. It is something significant to kind of share that you've achieved. It also means that you know your stuff. So actually, when it comes to additional learning or further development or progression, your manager is safe in the knowledge that actually you've completely nailed everything you needed to know for your apprenticeship because you've achieved a distinction in it. It's not that you only just passed. Those in sixth form, yes, absolutely. You are eligible for the apprenticeship. As I said, the only thing that would make you ineligible generally is if you've done the same course. So if you've done A levels, please, don't be put off. You absolutely can still come and do a level 3 apprenticeship. Thank you very much, whoever's put the link in there for the email. Yeah, if you have got any questions that do come kind of to mind after we've completed this, please feel free to drop us an email. That will come directly to myself and my team. So we'll be able to answer any questions that you do have. I assume, Praise, you mean for marketing. We don't do a marketing apprenticeship at the moment.
Lovely. I'm a Tony. I'm currently studying media production in college. Is it okay if I apply for service advisor? I have my GCSE results. Yep, absolutely. Yep. If you've got your GCSE results, that's all we require. However, obviously, you can't do college and be an apprentice at the same time. Do I get an IMI award for the apprenticeship? Absolutely. So our light vehicle maintenance and repair, paint and body programs are IMI accredited.
Perfect. I'm just making sure we've answered all of the other questions. Oh, I see you've answered some of those. Can someone with a grade 4 in maths, grade 5 in science and a grade 3 in English that is awaiting another English result be considered? Absolutely, yes, you can, especially if you're waiting for results. What I would encourage you to do is put your predicted grade for that English outcome as your grading on there, because if you do put a 3, it will flag up to us that you don't already have the entry grade criteria. So if you've going to sit the exam and you're waiting for that resit to come and for those results to come through, please put what your predicted grade is, because ultimately that 3 would flag up to us that you're not eligible, potentially.
Perfect. And that touches on a really good point that I don't think we've spoken about, Emma. So if anybody on the call is currently doing their GCSEs, you can absolutely still currently apply. So if you're in the last year of your GCSEs and you see a role come up in your area, please do apply. As Emma said, you can put in your predicted or your expected grades.
Yep.
And go from there.
And just on that point, so what we would do, effectively, you may see that actually we want this role to start in April. It's absolutely fine if you're doing your GCSEs and you're not going to be available from April. A lot of our roles, we just pop a date on there that's a couple of months away, just to give us enough time that actually if you are available and we can get you in. If you are doing your GCSEs, 99% of the time, the team will wait. So we will pop you on as a conditional offer. They like you. They would like you to start with them as soon as you're able. We will pop you down as a conditional offer. The day you get your exam results, you call us and let you know what you got. Let us know what you got. And then we are able to progress you accordingly.
Perfect. Dylan, I see you've asked a couple of times there around accommodation. So yeah, that is provided and paid for by your employer while you come away for your block release training. Harley, RCT and Guilds qualifications a bonus on applications, even though they're not IMI. I don't think it necessarily makes a particular difference there, Harley, if I'm honest.
No, the awarding body doesn't make too much of a difference. A couple of people have asked how many opportunities are available. I'm not sure if it's been answered in the chat or not.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So yeah, just for anybody who hasn't followed that in the chat, we do have around 450 opportunities available countrywide. So it really just depends on where you live, and keeping an eye on our portal for kind of opportunities that are available.
Perfect. If you've done your GCSEs but not done A levels, can you still be considered?
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. We only require GCSE grades and above. Fantastic. We've got 5 more minutes to go. So any last questions, anybody?
Just whilst everyone's thinking, if you do have any other questions, it has been popped in the chat. If someone could just pop that message again about the email address, please. And are we going to share afterwards just some key links? A couple of people have asked for the slides as well. So we're going to share some key links afterwards, just so everyone's kind of got the email address and the YouTube link for the videos and things. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, I think, again, not to harp on about the QR code, but absolutely please do scan it. Again, you can find our website there as well. Might be a bit more convenient. I appreciate if you've joined on your phone, that might be a little bit of a challenge. But if you are
screenshot it, if you are on your phone, if you screenshot it, you'll still be able to select it afterwards.
There you go. There you go. Top tip from Emma there. Brilliant. Any final questions, anybody? Oh, we've got, I think, some people in the chat there. No, that's just us.
And if you have just joined, this session is recorded, so you are able to play it back and listen to us talk about everything all over again.
Perfect. You'll be able to find that on the Careers Map website and on YouTube as well.
Perfect.
Brilliant. I think we'll call that a day. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you. Oh, Oliver, one last question. You just snuck in right at the end there. Are there going to be more opportunities coming out of the ones currently available at the last one?
Absolutely. So we are getting opportunities all the time. We're probably going to see things ramp up over the next month or two, just so that we've, just to be really clear with you, we are still getting opportunities through. So the ones that are on there and not necessarily please keep an eye.
Perfect. Thank you, Emma. So yes, just a big thank you to everybody for joining. I hope you did find it really, really valuable. And just like a virtual thank you and round of applause to Zoe. Thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Thanks for mastering the chat. That was brilliant. And Emma, thank you so much for your slides on the recruitment and your help during the Q&A. Fantastic. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Looking forward to seeing all your applications start coming through for the roles that we have this year. And best of luck in your applications.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.